Hey, this is Mike from the Run Testers, and in this video we're going to be talking about the Saucony Axon 3 and the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. Now these are two of the more affordable running shoes that you can buy right now, but if you had to pick between one of them, which one should you go for? We'll take you through the key differences, how we got on in our run test, and let you know whether you should go for the Saucony Axon 3 or the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. Here's a quick rundown of the stats for these two shoes. The Saucony Axon 3 cost £105 in the UK or $100 in the US, while the Puma Velocity Nitro 2 comes in at £105 in the UK and $120 in the US, though both can be picked up for less than those original prices. Stats wise, the Velocity Nitro 2 has an 8mm heel to toe drop, while the Axon 3 has a 4mm one. Our UK size 8 Velocity Nitro 2 weighed in at 260 grams compared to 246 grams in the same size on the Axon 3. Upper-wise, Velocity Nitro 2 features a knit upper, while the Saucony uses an engineered mesh kind. At the midsole, Puma uses its nitrogen-injected nitro foam, while Saucony uses its EVA-based Power Run foam. In the outsole department, Puma uses its Puma Grip outsole, while Saucony sticks with a carbon rubber outsole. Okay, so in terms of fit, I've had both of these shoes in a UK size 8 and I have zero issues to report on both of these shoes. Now, typically I'm a UK size 8 in Saucony shoes and in Puma shoes as well, and I've had absolutely no issues whatsoever. I think the uppers that are used on these shoes do kind of dictate the kind of feel that you get and the kind of fit that you get as well. I would say on the Saucony shoe, the upper feels a little bit more supportive, and but still gives you that kind of good amount of room up front of the toes and a good hold of the midfoot as well. And then I think on the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, I think the upper lends itself to being something that's prioritizes comfort, space, being roomy as well. That's kind of what I felt and experienced in this shoe. I think when you look at the level of padding you're getting around the heel collar, those kind of spongier kind of laces that you're getting on the Puma as well, it's kind of feels more built for comfort, and that's kind of what I felt on those runs. But ultimately, in terms of sizing on my kind of narrow feet, I would say go true to size. The UK size 8s on both of these shoes have worked well for me. As I said, I feel maybe the Puma is a little bit more roomy and spacious, but I have absolutely no issues with the Saucony Axon 3 in terms of the space and in terms of getting a good fit in general overall. Okay, so into that run test. Now, in terms of the types of runs these shoes are both designed for, I would say they're the same. These are daily trainer shoes, ones that you can potentially go out, run long in, run easy in, and they'll give you a level of protection and comfort to do that. But then also shoes that you have the capability to run a little bit quicker in, do some more up-tempo running in it. Maybe not your fastest speed work, but ultimately can give you the scope to run a little bit quicker in them as well. Now, in terms of delivering that, I definitely do think both of these shoes do kind of tick those key boxes, but I think they deliver that experience in slightly different ways. I would say on the Saucony Axon 3 and kind of really kind of focusing and honing in on what you're getting in the midsole here, it's definitely a little bit firmer than what you're getting on Puma's midsole here. You can even just see from kind of giving them a little bit of squeeze that it's a little bit softer on the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, which is definitely a little bit firmer on the Axon 3, but I don't think it feels overly firm. I do think that midsole generates a kind of very nice bouncy kind of feel underfoot, gives you a nice ride. You get a kind of gentle rocker feeling in here to make it nice to run a little bit more up tempo in it. And then when you ease off, it's firm, but it's not overly firm, as I said, and you can run some kind of slightly slower, kind of longer runs in it. Now, when you look at the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, I think you sink more into this midsole a little bit more, and I think when you kind of really have to kind of engage in terms of what you're getting in the midsole when you want to run a little bit quicker in it, but it does feel very nice and smooth and comfortable, and you can kind of run some quicker stuff in here. I think maybe it works a little bit nicer at those easier paces when you need to kind of slow things down, and I think that just lends itself in terms of what you're getting in terms of the fit of the upper, the roomy kind of spacious nature of the upper, the midsole, and that kind of softer feeling that you get when you sink into it does make it a little bit more comfortable to run it a little bit slower in. But ultimately I do think you can do those types of runs, but I think that's mainly where I've seen the differences in terms of the easier runs. The Puma Velocity Nitro 2 seems to just lend itself a little bit better in here, whereas I think when you're running a little bit quicker, it just feels a little bit more natural in the Saucony Axon 3, where maybe the Puma Velocity Nitro 2 doesn't feel naturally that it's going to run a little bit nicer when you run a bit quicker, but it does kind of offer that capability in this shoe. Now, from an outsole point of view, Puma's outsoles are very, very good, and you know, in terms of what you're getting on the Saucony Axon 3, I think it's a strong outsole performance as well. I think durability wise and being shoes that you can log a lot of mileage in, I think both these shoes are capable of that. I think if you want to do some lighter trails in these shoes, you can. I mean, I've run a lot in these shoes. I've run a little bit more in the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, and outsole durability wise, it's been absolutely spot on. Grip wise, it's been absolutely fine. You can run in wetter conditions and it's been fine. I've done one kind of rainy run in the Axon 3, and from that point of view, it didn't slip around. The grip felt very, very good. You know, it's a bit more focused in terms of the areas of that outsole grip compared to the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, but in terms of being shoes that feel fit to kind of run in dry and wet conditions, but also offer a good level of durability, I think both are kind of level pegged on that front. Maybe going to get a little bit more of that Puma, but I think ultimately I don't think it's going to be a massive amount between the two. So yeah, for me, I would say these both can offer those kind of daily trainer kind of traits, something that you can run slow and long in, but also run a little bit quicker in. I would say that I think the Puma Velocity Nitro 2 feels a little bit nicer to run those slower, easier runs, whereas I think the Saucony Axon 3, I definitely feel it's got a bit more of a slant on running that kind of slightly quicker or more up-tempo runs in it, just because that firmer midsole does change how it feels when you're running a little bit easier in it. But ultimately, I do think it can run fine on those slower runs and easier runs as well. So yeah, very close. I think, as I said, they fit those kind of daily trainer, versatile daily trainer profiles, but I think in terms of how they deliver in those types of runs or similar types of runs, I do think there are some differences that will kind of affect your experience of running in these shoes. Okay, so our verdict on whether you should go for the Saucony Axon 3 over the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. So we'll start by saying that in terms of being affordable daily trainer shoes, these are two of the best that we have used. And it's a bit of a case here of don't judge a shoe by its price, because in terms of them being below $100, £100, these shoes definitely can match up with more expensive shoes. So that's a positive on both these fronts of both these shoes. I think in terms of the types of runs that are designed for, they both definitely excel on those fronts. I would say that with the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, I think it works a little bit nicer on those slower, easier runs. I just think the terms of what you're getting in the midsole here, it just lends itself to easing off the shoe a bit more than it is with the Saucony Axon 3. It can handle those runs, but I do think it feels a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more natural in the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. Saucony Axon 3, I think it definitely has a more up-tempo slant to it. I think that just naturally lends itself in terms of the kind of rocker design you're getting here, that kind of firmer midsole that you're getting here as well. Which I think with the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, it doesn't feel like it's a shoe that should run quick, but it definitely does, and it does feel nicer, those kind of more up-tempo paces. Outsole-wise, yes, there's not much in it. I think grip and durability, they're very, very close in terms of that point of view. So I think for me, if you're going to pick between these two, I would say that the Puma Velocity Nitro 2 works a little bit nicer at those slower, easier paces. So if that is something you kind of veer towards in terms of your shoes, and also want something you can run a little bit more kind of quicker in, then that's probably going to be the shoe for you. I think if you're looking for a shoe that works a little bit more on those kind of up-tempo paces, can work at slower paces as well, but definitely has a bit more of a slant on the emphasis on those kind of slightly quicker runs, and I think that's where the Axon 3 for me kind of works. Personally, I would just be going for the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, but I don't think there's a huge amount in it for me, really. I think, you know, as I said, I've had a really good experience with the Saucony Axon 3 in general, and I think in terms of where it sits, it's a really good and strong option. I just think that kind of extra level of comfort that I found on those slower runs, I think works a little bit better for me than it does on the Axon 3. But ultimately, two very good, cheaper, kind of daily trainer shoes that are going to work for a lot of people, and I think you won't go massively wrong going for either one of these shoes, but I think the Puma Velocity Nitro 2 just about edges it, as I said, for those kind of little extra level of comfort you get on those slower, easy runs. But the Axon 3, another solid shoe from Saucony, and a really good affordable daily trainer shoe to look at as well too. Okay, so there you have it. That is our take on how the Saucony Axon 3 compares to the Puma Velocity Nitro 2. Now, if you've got any questions about these shoes or other shoes you want to see either of these shoes compared to, let us know in the comments. As always, like and subscribe. hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos. And yeah, we'll see you for the next Run Testers video.